So, all right, well, last Thursday, folks, a mob in Stirling Castle killed the alleged killer of 8-year-old Shantae Skyers. Joining us this morning to discuss jungle justice. Is it right to take matters into our own hands? Executive Director of the Legal Aid Council. Is that right? Council, Hugh Faulkner, and CEO, content leader for the Dispute Resolution Foundation, Paul Hines. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for being here with us today. We were talking during the break a little bit. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Hines, because we don't seem to be doing so well at mediation and dispute resolution, or are we? Because these instances, we hear about them. Do they happen more frequently than we hear about them, or are they really anomalies?
I think these are more anomalies. I think we are making slow progress with dispute resolution. There are persons who are embracing processes like mediation and using it readily, regularly. However, these cases don't make the news headlines, and therefore we're not hearing about them as much as we'd hear about something as painful as this one. So anytime there is a child that has been injured or killed, then it becomes national news, and therefore almost every parent is going to be there feeling that pain.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of dispute resolution taking place. There is a lot of mediation taking place, but they are not on the headlines.
Okay. And so Hugh, this is the catalyst for this is usually a notion, a perception that the justice system does not work. So this is a quicker way.
Right. What Mr. Lark Cooper would seek your leave to first express my sympathies to the family of Miss Skyers, young Miss Skyers, and the family of Mr. Williams. It's a double tragedy in a sense. But regardless, and my submissions will be more of a general nature than the specific incident, because any court matter could arise. So generally speaking, any dissatisfaction one has with the justice system, it is so designed over 200 plus years to safeguard convicting the wrong person. The difficulty I have with mob justice or mob injustice is that you cannot say you're not guilty. If a mob says it's you, it is you. So you'll face the penalty. The justice system offers you the opportunity to say I'm not guilty and puts the burden on the crown to prove your guilt, and not to any standard but beyond reasonable doubt. And even if you are found guilty, the court has the sentencing discretion to either give you life imprisonment or any other, even to be put to death. Death is final. So if you are killed in a mob situation, then if that was a wrong decision, it cannot be reversed.
Even if it wasn't a wrong decision, isn't that murder?
By Jamaican law, it would be murder if you did not kill someone in the course of self-defense.
I asked the question before we came on that this is not the first time I'm hearing about mob justice. I can't remember hearing that anyone was charged or convicted having done something like that, what we read about.
Yes, not many instances, a few instances.
Why?
If the community is united that a particular course is desirable, then you will have only reluctant witnesses. Nobody will be willing to go forward, give a statement, sign to that statement, and then go to court, go to committal proceedings, then go to circuit, etc.
We asked the question this morning, and both Sim and I thought it was rhetorical when we said, is it right what happened? Is there any instance that what happened could be right?
In my view, and again I speak generally speaking, if a person is alleged to have a mental illness, even that factors in our criminal justice system. That's why I say it has certain safeguards that the spontaneous action would not have. So before you are put to trial, if there's need for there to be a psychiatric evaluation, that is done to see if your mental state is such not only at the time when you are to be tried, to test whether you are able to comprehend and follow a trial proceeding, but also whether your mental state is such that you can give your attorney instructions.
Not to belabor the point, but is there any reason that something like this could be deemed the right thing to do?
No, I think by our law, sir, the hangman wouldn't be tried for putting somebody to death by law. He's carrying out a process of justice. But for you and I to take the life of somebody as part of some extrajudicial process, we would have to answer.
Right. Death penalty not on the books, right?
Pardon me?
Death penalty not
It is there, but it has not been pursued.
Okay. Mr. Hines, what is jungle justice as a result of what? So I asked about the justice system generally, which a lot of people feel is broken, which is why they opt to go this route. Is that the problem, or is it that we have a problem with anger?
It could be a number of things. Anger could be one. I think we've had a culture for a long time in which we have not found peaceful ways of resolving our issues. So we tend to react rather than to look at and respond to it in a timely fashion. So anger could be one issue. There could be other issues that would support violence, for example. Sometimes, and there's been a lot of research put out by Violence Prevention Alliance, and I've seen other researchers saying it recently, that sometimes nutrition or the absence of proper nutrition leads to violent responses. And I'm thinking that we are seeing behavior like this that would suggest that we have to find a different way of discussing our disputes. And there are many disputes that we see violent responses to. So this particular one is particularly emotive. And I join Hugh in offering my sympathies to the family. However, I think we have to pay attention to what is it generally our culture is saying and how we respond to issues about disputes and conflicts. Are we likely to respond in a knee-jerk response, or are we prepared to get and engage? And we are tending to be we're doing less engagement and more reaction. So engagement would suggest that we can sit and talk about it, which is one of the reasons why we have dispute resolution mechanisms such as mediation, where we may have issues that we can talk about and find peaceful ways to resolve it. In many instances, we are tending to react in a knee-jerk fashion. Sometimes it is based on our emotions. We are angry about something, and it's something that we're angry about. When we cool down, we realize it's really not really rational. So we need to find more peaceful means. And I'm thinking that perhaps one of the more peaceful approaches is to look at something like mediation, which engages persons in a, it doesn't have to be in a control setting all the time, but at least it's about engaging persons
so is
to have
this
a
then
dialogue.
about public education?
It's a lot about public.
Yes. So how do we move from this place where people think that is the right and proper thing to do?
It's a 1,000-year march, to put it that way. We've had a deeply embedded culture that says that we should respond and react. And there are all kinds of pressures on persons. So we tend to justify our behavior in the end by virtue of what's happening to us now. But it can't be the way forward. If somebody, in this case, for example, has mental illness, is this the message we want to send, that if you are mentally ill, you can be accused and murdered? What if you're not the person who was doing it? And even if you were, is that the response?
Yeah. Mr. Hines, the gentleman who was killed, Mr. Williams, his brother, apparently escaped from the mob. He's thinking that he's not certain the violence has ended. Some people are saying they want him to because they think he has something to do with it. Would your group go in this area and have a chat with the folks? Or
certainly, if we're invited. I'm noticing that...
if you're not invited, you wouldn't want to go in? And
we would make an offer. I'm seeing that the pastor for the area is asking for assistance and speaking to the child care and protection services. I'm saying that we would be willing to offer our assistance, because in a case like this, it needs processes that will cause persons to really engage. I really don't know what the facts are, but I don't think that in the 21st century this can be what we're about. Mm-hmm. There are many aspects of Jamaica that makes us proud. This can't
normally
be one.
What would you do? What else would happen that you would want to jump in? When was the last time you had to jump in on something, maybe not as like this, but what would you do normally?
This is, well, I think that jumping in is important because, and it involves engaging persons, maybe the leaders and the stakeholders, to engage them in having structured talk. Because here's the minister, the pastor saying, look, we need to talk about parenting issues, we need to talk about getting the community stronger. We can lend a hand in that one, in those
Okay.
areas. So there are definite things, and these are things that are being done by mediators across the country regularly, in some hotspots in Montego Bay, in Clarendon. So we know, we have experience in getting involved in these kinds of situations.
Okay.
So Hugh, next steps, how do we move forward? Wrapping up, but what do we do to try and clamp down on this kind of activity?
Well, I believe it would be no ordinary public education program because it is almost ingrained in our society, especially if the victim is a child, elderly person, mentally ill person. Then the community may believe they have misguided moral duty to respond. But I would recommend that we rely on the justice system. I know people are hurt, people are grieving, but the irrational act can lead to further reprisals and the perpetuation of animosity.
Yeah.
So I would just ask persons to rely on the justice system.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Okay. Executive Director of the Legal Aid Council, Hugh Faulkner, and CEO, Content Leader for the Dispute Resolution Foundation, Paul Hines.
All right, go for a break. So come.